So good evening, everybody. My name is Tim Fraser. I'm president of the museum's Board of Trustees. We want to welcome everyone to the 2020 Hunterdon Art Museum annual meeting. As most of you know, the annual meetings typically are held in person during the fall, but as most of us understand, that was not possible this year. But we felt it was important to hold an annual meeting as we're accountable to you, the members. And so we're excited to have this opportunity to meet with you this evening virtually. As we go through this evening, we're going to try and keep the presentations succinct. But if you have any questions, please submit them through the chat and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. So a little bit of background. I was introduced to the museum several years ago by my wife, who was at that point volunteering on the museum's installation team. And about 2 years ago, I was privileged to be asked to join the board. And then this past January, stepped into the president's role. I've greatly enjoyed the opportunity, both as a board member and even more so in the last couple of months as president, to be able to learn about the museum's rich history, the strong community of members, donors, and volunteers that are the museum's foundation, and the dedicated and talented staff that make the museum so successful. And I am looking forward to and appreciate having the opportunity to contribute to the museum and the legacy over the last almost 70 years. As most of you know, this year has been unprecedented in so many ways, and Marjorie and Heather will talk in much greater detail about this. But as most organizations, we've been shifting from in-person to virtual. We've had to change the way that we work and conduct our business, and it's had impact on the financials. And while the past year has brought challenge, we also see opportunity. For example, a lot of what we learned over the last year will continue to be skills that we leverage as things return to some semblance of normal. But we're also taking this time to evaluate who we are and what we do, considering both our strengths and our weaknesses, and developing a vision for the museum's growth and success over the next 30 years. We recently developed and sent out an engagement survey to solicit feedback from the museum's members, donors, and volunteers. Starting in April, we'll be hosting a series of roundtable discussions so that we can speak in small group settings with our supporters to best understand how we can increase engagement with the museum. And then over the next year, we will be the board with, in conjunction with the staff, will be developing a comprehensive financial sustainability plan to ensure the museum's future. If you are interested in participating in the roundtable discussions or the sustainability project, please do not hesitate to reach out to me or the museum. My email address is tim@hunterdonartmuseum.org. I'm going to pass the baton to Marjorie Nathanson, who most of you know is the executive director of the museum. What may be less well known is that Marjorie recently had her 25th anniversary with the museum. And I'd like to take a moment to thank her for her many years of dedication to the museum. She has and continues to work tirelessly to make the museum successful and deserves much of the credit for what the museum is today. So Marjorie, thank you for all your hard work over these many years.
Thank you, Tim. That's very nice. Thanks. I am going to share my screen, so bear with me while I do that. So last year, I ended my annual report, which was delivered in January, with a toast to the new year, saying, "May it be a year of peace, art, good health, and happiness for all." Well, clearly I had no idea what was coming. Now, with the task of summarizing the months from July 2019 through June 30th, 2020, I look back and I have to remind myself that the first 8 months were normal. We had opening receptions and events, summer camp, and classes took place inside. Our staff gathered together for meetings and our board met in person. It seems like a very long time ago. On July 1st, 2019, Hunterdon Art Museum was opening its 3rd week of summer art camp on site. 77 children had already taken part in just our first 2 weeks. That summer, we would have 330 kids in our camp program and nearly 80 adults taking classes. Fall and winter studio programs continued as always. The education department served 493 people in the fall. Of those, 324 were enrolled in our studio program. The remaining took part in tours, birthday parties, and scout programs. Winter followed with similar engagement. A total of 477 people were served, with 262 in our studio programs in that season alone. July opened with 4 beautiful exhibitions. 2 of them were solo shows, and both artists focused on the environment. Sherry Mendelson and Aurora Robson used the same material, the recycled plastic bottle, but approached their practices in very different ways. With bottles retrieved from rivers, Aurora Robson creates brightly colored, abstract, 3-dimensional reliefs. She's passionate about calling attention to the millions of plastic objects that end up in rivers that have an adverse effect on our ecology. In the 3rd floor river gallery, Sherry Mendelson's sculptures, also made from recycled plastic bottles, resembled classical Greek and Roman works. Her elegant vessels address issues of history and culture. What at first glance looks like ancient glass objects, on closer inspection reveal contemporary logos of products that the viewer has likely used and discarded. Also in the summer, Transformed Paper and Dimension, curated by Carol Eckert, opened. The 9 artists in the exhibition, all nationally recognized, came from as far away as Oregon and as near as Clifton. They transformed paper, a simple and available material, into multifaceted structures and intricate physical drawings. A faculty show gave our audience the opportunity to see the work of our talented art teachers. 15 of our 35 teaching artists were represented in this exhibition. The range of work shown provided a glimpse of the many different types of classes that the museum offers for adults and children. The work of Cliff Lee, a master potter who reinterprets traditional Chinese porcelain, was exhibited in the 1st floor gallery throughout the fall. His beautifully carved and glazed vessels show an extraordinary mastery. Dragons, lotus flowers, cabbages, and peaches adorn his vessels, recalling ancient work. Simultaneously, the beautiful jewelry of Holly Lee was exhibited in the River Gallery, using precious metals, stones, and beads that come from Central America and Africa. The artist creates one-of-a-kind pieces that often reflect the natural world. Cliff and Holly Lee's exhibitions were curated by Janine Foligno, who also contributed essays to the catalog that accompanied these shows, which were funded in part by the Lenore Tawney Foundation, Rago Auctions, Marjorie Petty McGraw, Ingrid Renard, and Laurie Sherman. Mia Brownell and Martin Kruk shared the main gallery during the autumn. With uncanny perfection, Brownell captures the fruit and flowers that are the familiar subjects of traditional 17th century Dutch still life paintings, but places them in a world that often has no up or down, no horizon, and no gravity. Kruk's photogravure intaglio prints incongruously combine images such as a tree occupying a chair, creating a multi-layered, unified image that often merges inside and outside. Kruk leaves the viewer with the task of teasing apart where real and unreal meet. The annual members exhibition also took place. 33 artists were selected from 92 submissions. The juror, Pedro Barbeto, who is an assistant professor of art and the director of the Experimental Printmaking Institute at Lafayette College, chose the winner of the member highlight solo exhibition, Terry Fraser. Winter exhibitions included Explorations in Felt, a collaboration between Fiber Art Network, Fiber Art Now, and Hunterdon Art Museum. 28 works by 25 artists from around the world focused on non-wearable felt art. At the same time, in the first floor gallery, Gloria Ortiz Hernandez and Lorraine Kisley Art and Design showcased the pencil and charcoal drawings of Hernandez, the ceramics of Kisley, and the furniture that results from their collaboration. The colorful polymer clay vessels of Emily Squires Levine were on display in the River Gallery, followed by the member highlight exhibition, which had been awarded to Yael Eisner. Her work was chosen by the juror of the 2018 members exhibition, Michael Bizdak, art historian and global director of employee engagement at Johnson & Johnson. As for special events, in September, we brought Latin dance to the Toshiko Takeezu Terrace. We expected this to be the first in a series. We had 2 pop-up dinners, one of which honored Cliff and Holly Lee. On February 9th, Ham It Up, sponsored once again by Flavor Organics with additional support from Unity Bank and City Spot Tea and Coffee, took place. Families crowded the museum, interactive art activities took place on all floors, and children left carrying precious artworks made that afternoon. Staff made plans for Art Party, which was scheduled for the end of April, and Art on Tap, which was scheduled for the first weekend in June. Sadly, neither was able to take place. The museum's Diversity, Equity, Accessibility, and Inclusion Committee met throughout the year to discuss and implement the museum's role in creating a more inclusive and equitable organization and community. The committee continues in that role and has drafted a vision statement that is a guide for staff and board. As a working document, it continues to be amplified. Partnering with approximately 30 schools, we opened Young Artist Showcase in January. Every 2 weeks, the exhibitions changed and we held a reception for the children and their families. Supported by Hunterdon County Cultural and Heritage Commission and a gift in memory of former board member and art educator, Berta Rittenhouse, Young Artist Showcase drew hundreds of families to the museum. Participating children were offered partial scholarships to special workshops. Then in mid-March, the world changed. By executive order, New Jersey's non-essential businesses closed because of the pandemic. The museum closed its doors, and our galleries would remain closed throughout the rest of the fiscal year and beyond. Staff began working remotely. Zoom, a website that most of us had never heard of, became a household word and our meeting place. Everyone worked ceaselessly, and together we brainstormed, researched, and solved how to keep our classes going, how to present exhibitions, and how to stay in touch with all of you. Keeping our audience engaged was a priority. We created virtual tours of our exhibitions, moved classes online, and ramped up our communications via our website and social media platforms. Our staff met the challenge of keeping the museum an active organization, even when we could not be in the beautiful historic building that is the museum's home. I have never been prouder of our team, and I'd like to recognize them here. Thank you to the fiscal year 2020 staff, Michael Citarelli, Erin Delgado, Joan Gavornik, Neris Goris, Dave Harding, Brian Carney, Ellen Marr, Mary Ellen O'Neill, John Prokopowicz, Ellen Reynolds, Caitlin Vitalo, and our faculty. We learned that offering programs online also had an upside. Students and participants could come from anywhere, not just within driving distance. We offered essential workers and their families free online classes, and more than 80 joined us. But of course, with our doors closed, most of our numbers moved in the wrong direction. Summer online programs attracted 65% fewer participants than the previous summer when programs were on site. Needless to say, with the building officially closed, no one was coming through our doors. Admission fees for the rest of the fiscal year were $0. Our gratitude goes to the museum's funders for helping us through this challenging year. Special thanks go to the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, a partner agency of the National Endowment for the Arts, which has provided generous, unanticipated support during this time, and to the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation for its general operating support, as well as for the extraordinary learning opportunities it provides its grantees. A complete list of our funders is printed in a written annual report that will be posted on our website tonight. Many thanks to all the foundations, corporations, and individuals who supported the museum during this time. We were also pleased to receive a gift of 50 works of art from Kathleen O'Grady. We ended fiscal year 2020 with a pre-depreciation operating surplus of $34,000 and a post-depreciation deficit of also $34,000. We're grateful to everyone who supported us during this challenging time. Thank you to our board members, then President Steve Citron, Vice President Kathy Ahart, Treasurer Jim McDevitt, Corporate Secretary Dana Lane, Recording Secretary Pamela Becker, Jorge Blanco, Tim Fraser, Bill Miller, and Kathy Schultz. June Kapp, a life trustee, passed away during the year. June had been an important force in the cultural life of the county and fortunately was involved with the museum for decades. It was the June and Ira Kapp Foundation that had contributed the Noriko Sakuyama and Tom Otterner sculptures that are installed on the museum's terraces. These sculptures, which are accessible 24/7, are extraordinary gifts to all who come to Clinton. As I am delivering this report well into fiscal year 2021, I can say that we are weathering the COVID-19 storm. There are still many unknowns, but we are excited about the next months and our plans for moving forward. There will be new exhibitions that will bring diverse points of view to our galleries. You'll hear about them in a second. And there will be interesting education programs and events online and in person. Thank you for your interest and support. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And if anyone has any questions, more than happy to answer them. We can all kind of share that. If just type them into the chat and we'll take your questions. And since I don't see any right now, what I'm going to do is turn this over to Jason Vardakar, who will talk about some upcoming exhibitions. And please, if you do have questions, type them into the chat and we will look at them at the end. So Jason, Jason is our Curator of Special Projects, and happy to turn this over to him.
Thank you so much, Marjorie, for that presentation and for the introduction. I hope everybody can hear me. Yes, okay. So I'm excited to share with you tonight. I'm Jason Vartikar, I'm the Curator of Special Projects. So in collaboration with Marjorie and the HAM Exhibitions Committee, I assist with the curation of exhibitions and the planning of events and webinars associated with those exhibitions. We've been building the webinar series. It's symposia, artist talks, and curator talks on relevant and important topics in art history. It's a relatively new series, so we invite all of those interested to participate in these events. But we've had wonderful turnout. I think one of them even broke 100. So for example, we recently held a symposium, Pipe Art, Understudied Glass. It featured Susie Silbert, who's the curator of post-war and contemporary art at the Corning Museum of Glass, Joseph Larnard, who's an assistant professor at Drexel, and 3 of the foremost glass artists in the field. Upcoming on April 10th, we're holding another webinar, Thomas Cole and the Contemporary, Laura Moriarty's Tableau for Thomas Cole, which we are very excited is featuring Kate Mentionary, who's the curator of the Thomas Cole National Historic Site. So this event will spotlight the art of Laura Moriarty, whose exhibition some of you may have seen called Resurfacing. It just closed and was replaced by another beautiful exhibition by Terry Fraser. But specifically, we will consider in this webinar on Laura Moriarty, the relationship between Moriarty's works and those of the major 19th century American Romantic artist, Thomas Cole. So this interesting topic surfaced organically. The artist Laura Moriarty participated in an exhibition at the Thomas Cole National Historic Site with an important work entitled Tableau for Thomas Cole. And the featured speaker, Kate Mentionary, actually curated that exhibition with the celebrated contemporary artist, Kiki Smith. So for those who might be interested, this event will also be a groundbreaking opportunity to consider more broadly the relationship between Thomas Cole, the major American Romantic artist, and contemporary art in general. We're also planning an upcoming webinar on Anne Clark's current exhibition, which is entitled As Her Mind Collapsed, I Was Awakened, The Rugs of Anne Clark. So stay tuned for more programming and maybe a series on art and power. So in the 2021-2022 exhibition season, we're going to be bringing many excellent shows to the museum, including 3 that I want to highlight today. First, September to January 2021, we'll hold an exhibition by Alicia Wormsley, seen here. The Space I Am In Conjuring. It won't look exactly like this, but this is a permutation of it that was previously installed in a museum in Pittsburgh. This exhibition deals with the presence, but also the absence of Black life. Alicia is a Black artist who deals specifically with this question. So how do we archive, preserve, and present Black life? Her multimedia installations engage this question in multiple ways with video, audio, ephemera, such as like paper and receipts, but also stories, music, photographs, material culture. You can see here rugs, chairs, etc. So Wormsley's really interested in the archive, both its power to produce, but also its power to erase or excise Black life. And Wormsley herself actually produces an archive of Black motherhood called the Children of Nan Archive. The word Nan or Non refers, according to the artist, to mother in multiple African languages. So simultaneous to Alicia Wormsley's exhibition, September to January 2021 to 2022, we were holding an exhibition by the artist Marie Watt of the Seneca Nation, whose works such as Companion Species at What Cost, which will specifically feature in the exhibition, which is now on the screen, reclaims the colonized Western space it is displayed in, as much as it reclaims the blankets that actually make up the work itself. It will be an opportunity for the Hunterdon Art Museum to become a student of this artwork, of the artist, and of the Seneca knowledge contained and poeticized in her works. Finally, in spring 2022, we will show Rena Banerjee's work. Seen here is a work from 2018 entitled Sealed with a Kiss, Kiss Me Once, Make Me Nice, Mix My Blood, Steal the Contract for Charity with Rice, and for modesty, race, purity, and inheritance, ask my father for permission. So as you will notice from this rich title, which is a poem in itself, it's filled with parody as much as tragedy. Reena Banerjee is interested in upending the concept of race, upending patriarchy, etc. And she does so by combining so many materials, right? So feathers gathered together in these fan-like forms, like fishnet, copper wire, this horn, this kind of mask or head made out of wood, beads, and various other found objects and ephemera. But so when Reena puts these things together, she enchants this stuff. It's a kind of witchcraft that makes anew, or in a way it kind of reinvents the South Asian knowledge that was stripped away by means of colonization. So Reena's work speaks to the Asian American experience, to what is lost and to what is gained in the United States. And she makes anew a form of magic and care that derives from Asian tradition with these artworks. She invents her own kind of enchanted language, and she kind of reclaims what was taken at the hands of the colonists. So those are 3 really exciting exhibitions that are upcoming, and it's been my pleasure to share them with you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Heather Brady, who is, like me, new to the museum, but from whom I've learned so much and have had the pleasure to work with. So let me exit my screen. Stop my share.
Okay. Just getting myself set up. Okay. So, sorry, I'm not sharing my screen, but I am still needing to get set up. I'm just making sure we're ready. So, hi everyone. I just want to say first and foremost how happy I am to be part of this meeting tonight. I'm hoping to keep my part of this very brief, but also that this will be just the beginning of ongoing sharing and conversation about HAM's work in education. I should just note that I come to HAM with a really strong interest in the kinds of learning and connection making and community building that occurs within and around museums, or that can occur within and around them. So a big part of what excites me when I think about education at HAM is hearing, as we just did, both from Marjorie and Jason, about our exhibitions, about what we're doing in exhibitions. Because when I think about teaching and learning in museums, I think of programs that carefully weave what's happening in the galleries together with opportunities in the studio, experiences that link those things together. It's a link that feels really important to deepen, because as you can see, again, from the presentations we were just hearing, and you know, as supporters and members of HAM, the things that we choose to present to the world through our exhibition program are such a significant part of what makes us unique. And they say so much about what uniquely interests us and we value. So in the months ahead, I'm going to stay pretty big picture, but I hope what you'll start to notice is HAM education experimenting in some new ways, while also continuing to do the kind of programming you know from us, and we so love to do. Because this is a meeting in which we're encouraging questions, I actually thought for the rest of my time, I might share some of the questions that are really going to guide our thinking in education and planning for the next while. And that includes, you know, related to what I was just speaking about, the question of how we bring art objects, artwork on view, and the themes embedded in our exhibitions into our programs for kids and for families and for adults. It might be that you begin to see more programs that begin that actually begin with an open-ended experience of looking and discussion, conversation around something on view, whether it's virtually or in the galleries eventually. And then it is followed by something that's really thought out and tied to what we've just been looking at in the studio. So the studio experience can help us unlock or deepen or expand upon the kinds of ideas and connections and understandings that have surfaced around the exhibition work or themes. That's just one example, but it's that question of how we do it, how we build the bridge between the two or strengthen it, that's going to keep guiding more thinking for us about how we do what we do in general. Another question that I'd say is really on our minds right now is how we continue to respond to the evolving interests and needs of our community, and also widen our reach at once. So for all of us, so much has changed in the last year alone. And it's really important to us at HAM and to us in education when we think about programs and where we invest our energies and our time, you know, to have a strong sense of what is really important to you now, to you in the future, you know. So this is something we want to make sure we're asking and checking in on over time. And again, at the same time, we're also thinking about how we continue to reach out. Again, especially in this extraordinary period that we're all moving through, you know, how do we continue to connect with or expand the voices who help shape and facilitate and participate in the work we do? And lastly, I would say a question, you know, that I'm excited to think about more with everyone at HAM has to do with the impact we hope to have. We're going to be asking ourselves, we already are, questions that help us think a little bit more about how the work we do inside of HAM, in the galleries, in the studio, or virtually, or on the terrace now that the weather's warming up, how all of that work does and can positively impact life outside of the museum. So an example of a question that I've really been mulling is just how can we continue at HAM to help nurture more caring and connected communities, particularly following a time when we've been pretty isolated. This is just one example of the kinds of questions we might be asking and how we might think about the impact that we hope to have through the experiences we provide at HAM. So again, all of this is part of a big picture, and the big picture of, you know, where we are now and where we're going. And I hope as you watch or engage with us in the ways that you do already, that you will see, as I said earlier, that we're both continuing to do and build upon the kinds of education programs that you know from us. And also that you start to notice that we really are thinking actively and in new ways and experimenting with our work. I'll just say also as I close that if you have ideas following this presentation or questions that come up about education, more specifics, or you're interested in some of these bigger questions that I've raised, and you want to connect after this meeting, I invite you to reach out to me directly. My email is heather@hunterdonartmuseum.org. And I think I'm going to stop here. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to send this back to Marjorie.
You're on mute, Marjorie.
You're muted.
Sorry, everyone. One of the wonders of Zoom. I just wanted to thank Heather and Jason for the thoughts that they've just put forth to you. I know we're going to have an exciting year ahead, and so I hope you're going to join us for a lot of the programming that we're doing. I don't see any questions in chat. So I'd just like to reiterate what Tim said earlier, that we are going to be doing some roundtable discussions. And if you are interested in being a part of that, please contact either Tim or me. I'm at Marjorie at hunterdonartmuseum.org. We'd love to hear your thoughts about the museum. And with that, I think we're going to just thank you for being here and say good night. We really appreciate your support and hope to see you at the museum soon. We are open, our galleries are open, our programs, our education classes are still online, but the galleries are open and we have some beautiful shows that are up. So come on by and say hello. Thanks, everybody. Good night.